What is up, everybody? Welcome back here for another episode of Dolphins versus the World. And as always, we're joined with our producer, Joel, and Anthony, my co-host, is with me again. Anthony, how are you feeling, man?
I'm feeling great. Great Christmas Eve win against the Cowboys. The Dolphins are 11-4 for the first time since before my parents met. So here we are, man. It is a great time to be alive if you're a Dolphin fan.
Yeah, it was awesome. Awesome game to be at. Just electric playoff atmosphere. And like you said, it just felt good to get it before Christmas and not have to sit through. Like I know if you're a Cowboys fan right now, it was probably a miserable few days. But just awesome. And the way they did it too was, I thought, impressive. There's a lot to take away from the game and a lot we'll look at. And yeah, we'll get right into it and start talking about it here. But yeah, first and foremost, just awesome to get the win.
Oh yeah. It was phenomenal. I was a little stressed in the game, to be honest with you, at the very end, just because, I was like, good team. Can we go down and, have a good drive at the end of the game? We'll talk about it a little bit, but I thought that the Dolphins kind of shot themselves in the foot a couple of times. I know the Cowboys obviously had that touchdown that they didn't convert on, but I thought the Dolphins were convincingly the better team on the field. That might be controversial to say, but there was not one point in the game where I was like, the Dolphins are not the better team. It was just the Dolphins, doing, some stupid things to kind of let the game slip away. But the only good play for the Cowboys was that CeeDee Lamb slant, and that was just a miscommunication. And I love that they talked about it on Hard Knocks. They were like, I think Duke Riley, who is really becoming a leader of this defense, was like, they haven't done shit. We have given them everything. And that's really what the Cowboys didn't do anything all game until that last drive where they got that touchdown. And the Dolphins didn't really either, but for the Dolphins, I felt it was much more them stalling on their own rather than the Cowboys, where it was like our defense was just shutting them down once they adjusted. I actually put a tweet out in the game. It was around the second quarter. I said, Dallas Dolphins, it's the Dolphins' game to lose. We figured out their offense. It took about a quarter and a half. But then there was a certain point where they started stalling. Remember, they got the ball inside the 5. They could do nothing. Once that happened, I was like, okay, we're settled in. But yeah, it was just a great win. I know there's a lot of people out there now that, the narrative was the Dolphins can't beat a good team. Now the narrative is, well, it was the Cowboys. And, if you're only excited about these games because of media and the narratives and hopefully them stopping the narratives, then you're doing it for the wrong reasons. I mean, again, this Dolphins team is at 11 wins. Just think about that. We have an opportunity to win the next 2 to have 13. We clinched a playoff spot. And I think there's just a lot of people out there, especially with Colin Cowherd. Oh, my God, everyone is talking about him. And it's just it's so frustrating because I feel like we're losing sight of the fact that we have a really good team to root for. And, hopefully we can continue that as we go into this next week against the Ravens.
Yeah, I feel first just to touch on that, if you're going to look at the general national narrative all the time, you always will be frustrated because they just continue to move the goalposts. Right. When you need a goal, then a new goal starts. Then like you said, they can't beat anyone good. Then it becomes they only beat the Cowboys. Then we beat the Ravens, and it will become, well, can they do it in the playoffs and blah, 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 so on and so on. It's just silly. I try not to waste my time, but yeah, it's frustrating when you get the clickbait and title and you just fall for it, and then you're stuck reading something that you wish you never started. But yeah, this team, offensively, I thought kind of there was a few outplays that are normally just money for the Dolphins that were dropped. They were just bad throws, point blank. And that was kind of the only thing that slowed down this offense. If they converted those out throws, I felt like we could have just marched down the field every time. But yeah, impressive. The most impressive part to me continues to be the defense. They are exceeding expectations from what we thought preseason, me and you, and we were pretty high on them. Like thought this could be as elite as it's being right now. But I'm just so impressed with the pressure they get with only rushing 4 people. But like you said about the national media, like it's just continually underrated, this defense, and they keep doing it. Like I don't know how this defense isn't getting credit for how elite it's been since Jalen Ramsey has been back, because it is something like, and then not that the Ravens offense has been as like consistent all season. Like I don't think it looked that great last week. But if they go out here again and shut down another solid offense, this defense, I think it's proved everything it needs to show to the fans that during the playoffs, they will be able to keep us in games.
Yeah, the defense has been incredible. And you know, I remember, and I'm pretty sure you do, that before the season, I had said that I thought this year was going to be a lot more of kind of what we've seen since the Jets Black Friday game, which is methodical offense, elite defense, and you'll win games that way. I didn't think it was going to be fireworks and explosion. Turns out the first 4 games of the season, people kind of credit it towards Jalen Ramsey, but to me, the defense really started getting better week 5. That to me was our turning point. It's because we lost 31-17 against the Eagles, and everyone looks at that and says your defense isn't good. Again, you didn't have Jalen Ramsey, you didn't have X. You know, you're having Kader Kohu and Eli Apple on Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. But getting back on topic, like really this defense, to me, it's going to get a lot of credit towards Jalen Ramsey, and understandably so, because he's been very good. But to me, like the thing about this defense, and you alluded to it, is the defensive line is just phenomenal. It's as simple as that. Teams can't run the football on us. We said that in the pregame lead up into the Cowboys game. When we had Kay on, we had said, and he agreed, you're not going to be able to run on us. So if you're going to beat us, it's in the pass game. They ran for I think 30. If you don't count Dak's yards, I think the longest run of the day for the Cowboys was 7 yards by Tony Pollard. Our defensive line is sensational. We're not blitzing a lot, which is great. I think we are second only to the Ravens, coincidentally, in sacks this year, and we have one of the lower blitz percentages. It's not like a top 5 blitzing team. And so I really think that what has gotten this team to this point and where the flip has happened on defense, yes, it's Jalen Ramsey, because there are some times where there's coverage sacks, but this defensive line is just feasting. And Zach Sealer's playing incredible. Bradley Chubb is being, the Bradley Chubb we all thought he was when we traded a first and paid him what we paid him. Andrew Van Ginkel is playing out of his damn mind. Christian Wilkins, Christian Wilkins getting to the point where it's like, I'm taking back what I said about, I will say this. I don't think that any defensive tackle, just because of the nature of the position, the fact that defensive tackles are getting $20+ million, to me is insanity. I don't think any defensive tackle not named Aaron Donald or Chris Jones is worth that, even close to that money. I think defensive tackles should be making no more than 15. Just my personal opinion, but he certainly earned a new contract. If we're just going off of him compared to other guys in the NFL, he has earned a new contract. Yes, the money's ridiculous, but Dak Prescott's reportedly going to get a $55 million to $60 million a year extension in the offseason. It's crazy. But our defense has been phenomenal. And that's honestly, if you're asking me right now, I know I have a lot of concerns still about our offensive line. Hopefully it'll get a little healthier. But to me, the main reason why I'm still optimistic about playing a team like the Bills and playing a team like the Ravens this week and in the playoffs is because this is the first year in a long time, maybe ever, that I felt like we have a sustainable, not fluky defense. You know what I mean? Like with the Brian Flores defenses,
it's built the right way.
Right. You know what I mean? Like with the Brian Flores defenses, they were great. And honestly, he was a phenomenal defensive mind. The issue wasn't that. But I feel like this is more sustainable, and this is just a good foundation of defense. It's like they're not doing anything crazy. They're just disguising coverages. They're getting home with 4, maybe 5, and they're just playing it the right way. And we know, unfortunately, not from watching Dolphins football, but we know from watching teams in the playoffs in years past that is what's going to win you games. You're going to have to win the Cowboys games. I see a lot of people that are upset that the Dolphins didn't win by 40. It's like all playoff games from here on out. You and I said this last week. Every game, Cowboys, Ravens, Bills, if whatever happens in the playoffs, they're all going to be like that. Every game. If you win like by 2 scores in the playoffs, it's more so an indictment on the other team than it is you, because they didn't belong there. You shouldn't be winning by that many points in the playoffs. It should be a touchdown maybe, but like a field goal and it's back and forth, just like the Cowboys game. So the defense really won us that game, and foreshadow into the Ravens game. I think they are the reason why I feel not super pessimistic about the game. I actually have some optimism towards it.
Yeah, and I like how you kind of said the Cowboys game is a style of games that you have to win in the playoffs. Like, just as a analogy here, like the Florida Panthers for the past few years, they were the best offense in the NHL. They were scoring goals at will, and then they come to the playoffs and they just be dominated. Like, they weren't physical enough. They weren't playing good defense. They brought in a different coach, and the coach is like, come playoff time, like, you have to win 1-goal games. Like, in the NFL, like when you're playing the best of the best, you're going to have to win a tight field goal game, 1-score game. Like, it comes down to the little things, because both teams are really good. And that's just the reality of it. And so that's why also, again, it was impressive to see them win a game like that. Because like you said, and we both said, it's going to be playoff games from here on out. Like, I expect the same thing this week. And if the Bills game has the stakes that it may, I expect the same thing. And then, depending on who you match up against, it's going to be a tight physical game. And, you just can't make mistakes. That's really what this time of year is all about. Like, whoever limits the turnovers, whoever can be efficient in the red zone, third downs, the really fine-tuned stuff, that's who's going to win. Like, because that is all that separates these teams at the top. Like, most teams, they have a good coach at this point if you're still playing. So, yeah. And anything else you got for the Cowboys game?
No. Really happy with the win. Again, we're at 11 wins. So, there's not – I can nitpick, but it's like I'm just very happy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think kind of we'll just touch on it real quick, like looking on the for this game, like it's not deciding the 1 seed. And with the other teams in the playoffs here, like the Bills game is very key. They're obviously massive favorites, but even with the Chargers, like that game, that could have one more bounce and the Chargers could have easily won that game.
Right.
But yeah, I expect them. So here's a funny stat that I heard that I didn't know about. That if the Patriots lose this week, next week would make Bill Belichick the all-time loss leader for NFL head coaches. Could have been this week, but so that's pretty funny. It either be against the Jets if they win, or you can stop that from happening until next year.
Right.
So yeah, so I'm rooting for the Patriots here. One more. I don't think Belichick's going to be there next year. So get one over on the Bills one more time.
Yeah. I mean, there's always the same control you can control, but reality, if we're being honest, the biggest game for the week for the Dolphins is the Patriots-Bills game. Because if the Bills lose, doesn't matter what happens to the Dolphins. If the Bills lose, they can't win the division. And it's the Dolphins clinch the division if the Bills lose on Sunday. And I think not a lot of people focus on that because, we're just thinking about, obviously, what can the Dolphins control. But again, the Bills are already at 6 losses, so they have to win out just to maintain the same record as Miami. But if they obviously beat Miami, then they will have the tiebreaker because they'll have 2 wins over them. So, that is a huge game. And, I'm not holding out hope for the Patriots to be able to beat the Bills. But, we've seen crazier things happen. Let's not act like it's like out of the realm of possibility. Now, for the Dolphins, I've seen a lot of people, and we kind of dispelled this myth before, we came on here because we were doing a little ESPN playoff predictor. This does not clinch the first seed for the Dolphins. I've seen a bunch of people out there that are like, this is for the number 1 seed. It's not at all. If we win this game and lose next week to the Bills and the Ravens beat the Steelers next week, which they probably will, we still don't get the first seed. So this notion that it's for the first seed, it's not. This is for the Ravens first seed. If they win, they basically clinch the number 1 seed. I think they do clinch it if they win the game. I don't think it's possible for they clinch it. So there's that at stake, which honestly, the more I think about it, makes me a little more worried about this game, because I think there is more at stake for the Ravens than the Dolphins. But honestly, I guess you could say maybe there's more at stake for the Dolphins, because if they lose it, they can't clinch it. Mm-hmm. So I just actually talked myself live into a little more optimism. But yeah, so this is a big game. At the end of the day, you just got to take it 1 week at a time. We can't worry about all these different scenarios. At the end of the day, obviously you're going to have a way better chance of winning than getting the 1 seed if you win games. That goes for the Ravens, Dolphins, any team, versus losing games. Don't put it in other people's hands. They say that all the time. It's your destiny. You control it. The only way to do it that you can control is you go out and win 2 games against 2 tough teams where they're going to be very hard to beat. But we can do it. So that's the moral of the story. But it's crazy that we're even sitting here talking about it's not like we're sitting here. Sometimes we do this in November and we're like, if the Dolphins win the next 7 of 8 games, we'll clinch it. It's like, no, we have 2 games left and we're talking about the Dolphins realistically could be clinching the number 1 seed. To me, again, that's a plus. I just want to see a home playoff game. Yep. So, really this game, it's more so about next week, because if you lose this week and beat Buffalo next week, it doesn't matter. But I just want to see a home playoff game for the Dolphins. But I think right now the worst we can be is the 6th seed. If we don't get the 1st seed, but we still win the division, the worst we could be is the 2nd seed. So the Dolphins are essentially either going to be the 1st, 2nd, or 6th seed in the playoffs.
Or I think depending on the Browns, because the Browns could lose too, then we could be the 5th.
Okay. So we can't be the 7th seed, the 3rd seed, or the 4th seed.
Yeah.
So we're either going to have great home field advantage throughout the playoffs, or we're going to have it's going to be hard for us to get home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Let's say it that way. But anyway, we can move into this game. I'll pull up the injury report right now.
Real quick, just last thing. So for the Bills game, I think it's if the Dolphins lose, it's likely that the game will be on Saturday, because then you have it so it'd be set up that for the other teams there wouldn't be a scenario where the Dolphins can know their outcome before, because if some other teams lose, then it's all set before, and then the Dolphins wouldn't even be playing for anything. Right. So I think it's likely that either this game's going to be 1:00 next Sunday or Saturday night in the event they lose. But yeah, that'd be nice to have just one. I hope it's Saturday night personally. I hope we win and get the division. Actually, I don't know which one I want.
Right. So opening up the injury report, we are recording this right now on Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern time. So I just checked and there's no new injury report. We normally record like 3 hours later or 2 hours later than we normally are. So normally it'll probably come out literally as soon as we finish the podcast. But here's the injury report. Going on the Dolphins real quick. Chase, I think the biggest thing to monitor, honestly, for the Dolphins, I know Jalen Waddle is on there. Me personally, just with a high ankle sprain, I don't expect him to practice. But a new name too is on there with the left thumb and quad. How serious that is, I don't know, because I saw some stuff at practice today that he looked just completely fine. But nonetheless, he's on there. And then Javon Holland, I think, could be a big piece for this game. Will he come back? He's been out 4 weeks. That's normally what IR is. He probably would have gone on IR had Jerome Baker not gotten the injury he did. So those are the biggest injuries for me that I'm looking at. And then on the Ravens side, the biggest one by far is Kyle Hamilton, best safety in football right now. They are significantly different defense when he is not playing on the field. Rumor out of Baltimore, not rumor, but the report out of Baltimore right now is that in the limited portion that they did watch practice, he didn't participate much and he did not look good, is what I'm trying to find the exact. I'll try to find out a different.
And yeah, while you're pulling that up too, Zay Flowers would be another big one. It's funny that they just keep finding like off the scrap heap. They got Odell Beckham and Isaiah Likely have stepped in and just been fantastic for them this year. Like this is way different than the Dolphins Ravens teams from last year. This is a lot, but I mean, I don't think that's any secret saying that. Obviously, they have like 4 more wins or whatever from last year, but
no, yeah, these are two different. I don't like when people compare last year, even our offense. The first
or coordinators for the Ravens too.
Right. First of all, like the game started on a kick return touchdown. That's not going to happen. The Dolphins don't kick the ball. Thank God. Remember when we were saying that before the season? We were like, just kick the damn ball through the end zone. They don't do that anymore. They don't let people return kicks. No. So hopefully they continue to do that, really keep that leg warm, Sanders. Also, we didn't even mention him, but dude, what a game from Jason Sanders.
I know, yeah. We actually do have to mention that. That got to give him credit.
Us three were messing each other, me, you, and Joel. We were like, did we just witness Jason Sanders make 3 convincingly, like good from 70, 50-yard field goals, 5 field goals on the day? Yeah, just had to give him his props because, like, that's important. Really, if you asked me what are the 3 most important things in the playoffs, 2 is health, defense, your kicker. If your quarterback's healthy and playing well, if your defense is playing well, and if your kicker feels good, you're going to have a good chance in the playoffs. So all 3 of those, seem to be good right now. 2, I think it's probably just like got banged up. I don't think Mike McDaniel, if you sneeze, Mike McDaniel puts a nose injury on there. So like, I don't know how to feel, but Kyle Hamilton on here. I don't know who this is, Jameson Hensley, but he put Ravens safety Kyle Hamilton was present for Thursday's practice, but did very little during media viewing. He did not move around well. So, I don't know what that means. I don't know if that, if he's just not moving around well because they're like, hey, take it easy while they're watching because we don't want the Dolphins to know. I don't know. But nonetheless, that's a huge thing to monitor because if Kyle Hamilton doesn't play, I mean, that's going to be a significant loss for the Ravens secondary, I believe.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Same thing as last week. Like this late in the season too, when everyone's banged up, like a key guy or two makes so much of a difference. It really does. Like I feel like the Cowboys were really missing Tyron Smith there. Personally, like I thought Chubb and Ben Ginkel both, you felt their presence the entire game. But same thing with the Dolphins. Like, well, it matters on paper. It looks like at least when Tyreek Hill went out, but Jalen Waddle stepped right in.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then just other stuff. As far as the Dolphins goes, like you said, I expect all those guys to pretty much be playing.
Yeah, I'll pull it back up so you can see. We could talk about I didn't realize I closed it. There you go. Yeah. Like Robert, I think really the only guy I would expect that has been injured to possibly return would be Javon Holland. Personally, I don't think Robert Hunt will because like they can't afford with a hamstring injury for him to re-aggravate that. And then Jalen Waddle and Robbie Chosen, with concussions, we know. And then Jalen Waddle I think a report came out today from like everyone that he's unlikely to play, which with a high ankle sprain, it's like.
If this was week 6 or something, I'd honestly expect him to go on IR. Like, I think they're kind of downplaying it a little bit when they're like, it's a high ankle sprain, but not a severe one. Like, all high ankle sprains are pretty big deals.
I think depending on this week, he'll play next week. I think if the Dolphins win, they will. If the Dolphins win this week and we, what do we have to do in order to win our division? We have to just win this week.
Just win one of the next two.
Okay, so yeah, if we win this week, they'll
loss.
rest him. If we don't win and we have to win the division next week, I think he'll probably pull through and play a little bit here and there. Me personally, but yeah, the as far as the injury, I don't really think there's anything too earth shattering on there that we didn't expect. This is a normal Dolphins injury report.
Yeah,
you know, it's like half the team on there.
Normal, honestly.
Yeah, it's honestly a little smaller. Like I looked at it and I was like, oh, that's it. You only have like 15 people on there. That's nice. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, we get head into the game. That's your injury report. As of right now, I'm gonna keep the tab up and keep updating it to see if we get an updated one. Because I promise you what's gonna happen is we're about to close. We're gonna just be ready to close. We're gonna just talk about our 3 keys and our score, and then it's gonna come out the new injury report, and we're gonna be like, but anyway.
No, that's exactly what's going to happen, but it'll be okay. But when it comes out, it'll say something to it. It'll be like Holland downgraded doubtful or like something. But anyways, but yeah, we'll get into the Ravens game here. Yeah, I mean, how do you want to go about doing this? Or you just want to get right into the keys or start on either side of the ball?
Yeah, I could open keys. The main thing I just have to say about this game is I think it's going to be an ugly defense-driven game for both teams. I don't see either offense being able to significantly move the ball on the other, similar to what I said against the Cowboys about the Cowboys game. The main thing for me in this game is that I need to see is not the Dolphins beating a great team. Like I want to see the Dolphins' physicality. And I know you're beaten and you're battered, but like this is a game where the Ravens are going to come out and they are going to wallop you in the mouth, like as hard as they can. And I want to see how you respond, because last time that happened was the Titans and you didn't know what to do. So I need to see you come out. It's going to be cold. AFC North, Ravens, just like one of the like ugliest, dirtiest, not like dirty like they're dirty players, but like you think the Ravens, you don't think like cool, flashy. You're just like, it's going to be muggy weather. I don't even know what the weather is going to be, but I don't even care if it's perfectly sunny. It's muggy. It's just like not a great, like it's just an intimidating team. There's a lot of stories, honestly, to this game that I didn't even get into. I could, if you wanted me to. There's so many backstories to where it's like, there's this and there's this and there's this and there's this.
One thing I just wanted to say, and then if you got any, I mean, follow along, but I remember anytime we feel like play the Ravens, like I feel like they just out physical us. Like, especially when I was watching, but then last year too, even like I thought they out physical us. We were down, and then like a typical Ravens team, they just I don't know what it is, but they can't hold the lead. They're just really bad with the lead. So that's like how we started coming back. Like I don't even think we necessarily were the better team that day, because like I just said, they took it to us and just pounded us and got up by so much and then fell asleep.
Right. Yeah. Up until like, what year was it that it was 2021, right? Where Brian Flores faked to his injury because he didn't want to start him. And then he came in at halftime and won the game for us. What was that? That was 2021, right? God, he was like golfing. He was like golfing during the day. Like, and he posted the picture that he was golfing.
That was last year. No,
it was Brian Flores' last year. Right, it couldn't have been his rookie year, so it was 2021.
You're right.
It was 2021. Ever since that game, I don't fear the Ravens like I used to. They used to be like Voldemort. It was like they who shall not be named, because they had historically always kicked our ass from our first playoff game I ever watched, where they beat us and whooped our ass, to the times they like shut us out, to the tank year where they won like 59-10 and they ran a fake punt up like 30-something points. But that leads me into a bunch of backstories for this game. Vic Fangio had some words for the Ravens that I shared, where it was his last year in Denver. They were winning. Instead of running out the clock, they ran the football so they could say that they had 140-something or a certain amount of games consecutive of 100 rushing yards. And he said that's to be expected from them. And they asked, what do you mean by that? And he said, well, it's the Ravens. That's their mode of operation. They don't really care about player safety. That's not the player safety doesn't come first there.
Yeah.
Those are some choice words there. So there's, I said this against the Denver game, and people were like, I don't know if he's going to like, he's probably moved on from, Denver. I was like, no, like Vic Fangio, like I'm a town, like he's going to be pissed off, and he's going to be livid against the Ravens. He's going to be mad. Another one that I don't think a lot of people are talking about, which
they asked him about it today.
What did he say?
Porter did, and he gave like an answer. He was like, well, I was scheduled to speak with the media before the players, so I was kind of saying what they were thinking, but like the way he just said it, like it sounded like he was kind of like talking about it, but it still bothered him. Like he was like,
yeah. He's trying not to give them more fuel to the fire. He's smart with that. If you're gonna say something, say it after the game when there's no more fuel. But yeah, he's still thinking about it. I promise you that. Another one people are not talking about a lot, which may be conspiracy. Last year, after the whole Tua thing happened, John Harbaugh publicly, John Harbaugh, right? I don't know why I always get John and Jim confused.
And Brock Purdy, apparently. But apparently, do you see that after the game? John Harbaugh goes up after he kicks Brock Purdy's ass, and it's like, I hear you look like me. Like, I'm sure that's what he was waiting.
Right. No, yeah. But like last year with the whole Tua thing, Harbaugh came out publicly and said like that's not how you handle it, and like publicly like shamed McDaniel. And McDaniel's like this like nerdy, like nice, and everyone's like, oh, he would never have agendas like that. Like, no, like he literally went out against the Chargers and was like, I'm not going to run it. I don't care. I'm going to throw it all over just to prove a point. And even if we lose, I don't care, because I'm just going to prove that it had nothing to do with you. And obviously we saw that because he got fired and we torched him. But like, there's that. There's the back agenda where Tua and Lamar Jackson both know that Lamar wanted to be in Miami. The Dolphins, especially like thinking about that, I don't know if they flirt around with it, but that was definitely a thing where it was like, is Lamar going to replace me now? Lamar wants to come here. He's privately talking. Right. He's privately talking behind the scenes saying he can win 3 Super Bowls here in Miami with the weapons I have. So there's that. And I don't think it's any shock that every time they've asked Lamar about Tua, he's only talked about his college days. I don't think that's a shock if you're just asking me, my personal opinion. So there's just a lot there as far as like if I were a Dolphins player or if I was a Ravens player based off how last year went, and if I'm a Dolphins player with Fangio and how he feels, and McDaniel with you attacking my personal or you attacking, my character because of how I played Tua, and then Tua trying to prove a point like, yeah, you wanted to be here and Stephen Ross wanted to draft you. But so there's just a lot there. So there's just a lot there in this game.
One more thing that I want to get your thoughts on. So obviously they beat the 49ers last week, who I think we even both said that they were the Super Bowl favorites now. Like, are the Ravens now Super Bowl favorites? Like, I'd still give the edge to the Niners personally, but yeah, it's you too. Okay.
Yeah. If the Niners played the Ravens, if the Ravens played the Niners again to like in a week or two, the Niners would win the game. And we'll kind of talk about it with the Ravens game. It was one of those where it felt very much like the Niners and everyone was feeling them a little too much, and the Ravens were like, okay. And there's no greater equalizer than motivation.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's exactly how it feels. Everyone's like, the Ravens are going to destroy the Dolphins. The Ravens are going to do this. The Ravens are feeling themselves because they just beat the 49ers. We know how hard of a travel that can be. There's like statistics out there that show how hard it is to play there and then come back, even if you don't travel again the next week. So there's a lot to it this week. And I think that the people out there that just assume the Dolphins are going to lose because the Ravens beat the 49ers, like, this is a game of matchups, not records. It's not a game of, oh, you're better record wise and you're going to win. That's not what it is. It's a game of matchups. That's why the Tennessee Titans were able to beat us. Matchup wise, yes, we had better records and scheme, but at the end of the day, there's a human aspect of they're going to punch you in the mouth and how you're going to respond. And I think the Dolphins, if I were them, I don't know how they're going to actually be, but I would be like, okay, so you guys think like we're just going to lose now because they're the Ravens and they beat the 49ers. I think it actually, if there's any advantages in this game, they all bode for the Dolphins. Will they win? You'll have to see my prediction of what I think. But I don't think. I think there's a lot of advantages for the Dolphins because they just saw the 49ers play them, and everything they do is very similar.
Yeah, and that could lead right into the point. But yeah, I mean, not to be boring here, but like you said, this is like a tight, tough matchup. I'm interested to see what advantages you see, because like I just think these are two like really good teams that are hard to beat on any day. And if either team plays their best game, they're gonna win. I think it just depends like kind of what percentile performance you get. Like are the Ravens feeling themselves too much? Like they know they could still win the division or win the 1 seed with just a win next week, like, and they kind of exhale a little bit. They just proved to themselves that they could beat the Super Bowl favorite. There's so many just different angles, like, but I think again we're in for another really good game, and that's all you can ask for this time of year. As a fan, it's stressful, but I'm sure for all the neutral fans out there, this is awesome to just watch. If you can be unbiased and admit both these two teams are really, really good, and just enjoy the game, I'm sure it's fantastic to watch.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. I just think that like with the fact that McDaniel knows how to replicate what Shanahan and them do, or he'll understand what went wrong last week very well. He'll kind of see like the do's and don'ts. He saw the Rams play them really well, so he'll understand that too. Both teams play very similar defenses. I think overall the 49ers probably have just a better defense in totality of talent, but I think that the Dolphins scheme is better as far as coordinator versus coordinator. So yeah, we can get into like, I'll put the 3 keys up, but there's honestly so much I could say with the game, so I'll try to fit it in when we talk about keys. But you can start off with kind of just what I talked about learning from the Niners.
Yeah. I mean, not that you stole my thunder, but yeah, 100%. Like, everything that you said there is what I was gonna say. Yeah, look what these guys did. Like McVay and Shanahan are really smart. They're really good football minds. And obviously, Michael McDaniel knows that these are his best friends. Like, whatever they did, they were doing it for a reason. Like, they saw something, they had an idea in mind. Did it work? It worked pretty well for the Rams, but not as well for the 49ers. Like, so why didn't it work? How didn't it work? Like, go from there. And I think McDaniel knows this. Like, I don't think I'm saying anything that isn't being thought of. So I expect them to be able to learn from the mistakes and do it. Like, the only difference really, like you've been saying, is that the 49ers are more run based while the Dolphins are pass. So maybe that could be to our advantage. Mike McDaniel is going to be doing this here. But yeah, I mean, and then I'll kick it over to you here. Love your first one. And just in general, like we've been saying, just stay healthy. You guys stay healthy, right, especially down the stretch.
Yeah, this is one of those games where like, the Ravens are number 1 in sacks in the NFL. They're a physical team. Their best defensive lineman, Justin Matabuki, I went to high school with him, took many classes, probably one of the least intelligent people I've ever met from a book's standard. I mean, he was incredibly stupid. But he's a hell of a football player, which honestly is going to be more important for him because he's making millions of dollars. So I'm good for him. I'm just, it's just crazy when you think about football players and if you've ever gone to school with some, some of them, just football is where they're meant to be. Let's just say that. But yeah, keep Tua healthy. Obviously not because he's dealing with the thumb injury, but I genuinely believe that, for Dolphin fans, for himself, for the franchise, just keeping him healthy is just so good. And him being able to get through a full season, I think is going to prove a lot of people wrong, or prove, that he can stay healthy. To a lot of people, including myself, that was the only concern you and I had with him coming into the season was, can he stay healthy for a full season? Now that he's stayed healthy, I don't need to worry about oh, what if he gets injured? Because like everyone's getting injured. Joe, like all these quarterbacks are getting injured. If I can just see you do it once, though, I know you can do it. And so that to me is the biggest one. This is going to be a smash mouth football game, at least from the Ravens side. So keep him healthy. I know he took a couple of shots against the Cowboys, but I thought it was just, I can't say enough. If you were to look at the performance against the Cowboys, you would probably say that's not good. But if I told you, hey, they only had one starting offensive lineman and the rest were backups and third strings, you'd be like, wait, what? So they've just done a great job. And so, we shall see, how that is in this game, but keeping him upright, keeping him healthy is going to be huge for Tua in this game.
Yeah. Yep. And, next I got here, just win at the margins. Like we said earlier, these are just arguably the two best teams in the, AFC. If you want to argue other teams, I'm not going to stop you. But yeah, so when you're in games of this magnitude, like red zone, turnovers, third downs, got to win those. Even if you just look back to the two games last week, the Ravens it was 5 interceptions, I believe, and just derailed the Niners. Like any team does that, you're not going to win a game. Right. Completely takes you out of it. And then for the Dolphins, like the game just boils down to in simpler terms, it didn't completely boil down to this, but the fumble at the 1 yard line, like they get that, the game's totally different. Like the Dolphins still possibly win, but just little stuff like that, it all matters. It all adds up. Like using your timeouts correctly, that's like honestly makes a difference now. Like even just going to the Hard Knocks, like the little stuff where he's like, don't look at Tyreek when you're calling the play. Like, look at Braxton. Like, just stuff like that. Like, they're trying to do the little things right. Like, do we know if that actually matters? Talking to Braxton, we don't know, but let's keep doing it. And I'll kick it back over to you here. But I did not know this, that the Hard Knocks will follow them all the way through the playoffs. So, boy, would that be awesome to get some behind-the-scenes coverage of an incredible run here.
Yeah, it's the first time ever that's ever happened. So really cool. I'm going to talk about some event real quick for like 10 seconds. I posted a video, on Twitter that McDaniel said, F your records, Dan. We're coming for your records, Dan. Okay. This is, if anyone from X is ever watching or Twitter and can change this. If I post that video and someone uses my video and gets 3 million views with that video, should I not get impressions too? Should I not get credit or impressions too? Because that's just a little side thing. I posted something and a bunch of places used it. Like
I couldn't
dude, like that video in total has got like 8 million views between all the people that have used it. Mine got like 500,000, but that's a separate thing. It just kind of annoys me, but at least they copy and use it. I've had people in the past that are big names in Dolphin Twitter that literally just like screenshot my video, screen record it and post it for their own. And I'm like, okay, dude, like at least if you're going to do it on your own, go out and do the work of screen recording it. Don't screen record my video where it's clearly mine. But anyway, I digress. Get off the tangent, Anthony. I don't really need to talk about playing physical more because I said that a bunch. We know that keeping contain on Lamar is going to be huge. This is not the game to rush after the quarterback. This is a game where you kind of go, you're containing, like you're, just create that barrier for him. Let him have to dissect and win the game with his arm. Typically when teams play him in the playoffs, that's what happens, and he never can do anything. So I think that the fact that we play zone is really good. Last year was a disaster because they just kept running, QB options, and he was running all over the field. Start off with kick return touchdown, obviously. But I think on defense, the fact that we play a lot of zone, everyone will keep all eyes on Lamar. This isn't a game to just go crazy and rush after him. And I've seen that a bunch of times with Bradley Chubb and company. They'll just rush after, and he has these wide open gaps. You have to create a wall in front of him. Don't give him easy escape routes, and you should be able to beat him that way. And I think that if you're able to do that, there's not really anything about them that scares me. defense or offensively, especially compared to some of the other teams we've played. So again, if you can contain him, make sure he's not, exploding on the ground game, then I think you're going to have a really good chance. Even though they have a really good defense, you'll have a really good chance of winning this game.
Yeah, and sorry, I thought I might have been on mute, but their defense is very good, but it is gettable by the run, and that's my last one here. Like, I think you got to stick to the run here. Mike McDonald has done an incredible job with this defense this year, just mixing up the coverages so much. Like, that was part of the reason why I think Purdy was struggling to a degree, because they just give you, like, much like the Dolphins offense, they give you a look pre-snap, and then it'll be a different coverage post-snap. And Tua's going to have to decipher that, and the best way to help him do that is to run the ball and get them to just commit to stopping the run. It'll be easier in the pass game. But I think this, like we said, it's going to be a smash mouth game. Like, you're not going to win this game airing it out. You're not going to be able to score 30 points. Like, just run the ball, eat the clock, and just make the most of your drives, and you'll be okay in this game. Like, this isn't going to be a game that I think gets away from either team. Like, I think both teams have the defense to keep this close. And the Dolphins offense, outside of the Commanders, like, it has been struggling at points. So I think even with this makeshift O-line, like, it is really banged up. You got to trust these guys,
right,
that we can move the ball. I think it is tough to trust them, and that's part of the reason why we're seeing a lot more, like, just quick passes. Like, they're, instead of runs, they're just so, like, quick screen passes or whatever. But I think you just got to run the ball in this game. Like, their run defense is not the best.
Well, yeah, for me, the way I view it is more so like, don't get into these situations where you're intimidated to run the football. And and going off what you said, you can't be getting in these third and longs against teams like this. So on early downs, like, that's for me. I didn't run the football, but if I'm going off of yours, I would put, like, run the football on early downs. When it's 3rd and 1, run the football. Don't be intimidated because it's the Ravens. Every single time we run the football on 3rd and short, it works. Literally, the game sealing first down that we got against the Cowboys was a run. Pound the football, and will you have a lot of success? I don't know. We'll see, just because of our offensive line, and they have some good guys on their defense. But at the end of the day, you can't be intimidated and get away from it and become too pass happy. So anyway, heading into those score predictions, I have the Dolphins winning 24-21, similar to the Cowboys game. Close, kind of ugly, but last second field goal by Jason Sanders pulls away the win.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, I could have easily done a field goal or less here. But yeah, just in my mind, it'll be like we kick the late field goal, give them the ball back with, like, very little time here. Like, this is just going to be another barn burner of a game. I don't know how it was watching from home, but just being in the stadium and being wrapped up in it, I feel like the game goes a lot quicker. Like, then when you're at home and you can do this and there's commercials and everything, like, it's going to be a stressful hang for Dolphins fans here. And the last time that I watched a game at home where there was this much stakes on line was when we beat the Jets to win the AFC East all those years ago. Like, other than that, like, I feel like I was either at the game, like last year, the Jets, I was at the game. A couple other times I was just there when it was big games, or I think when we made the playoffs with Adam Gase, I was flying in the air. I don't remember where I was going to, but
right.
Yeah, I think just one last thing we'll do here and we will wrap up. Yeah, I think either way, coming out of this game, you're going to have everything to play for, and you're going to be at home. And that's awesome. Like, before the season, I think I'd like to think, because I definitely thought that the game would come down to that last game of the year. I thought we'd be the one chasing the Bills, and then we'd get it at the end of the year. We'd get the chance, like, after fighting, and we earned the chance to do it and win the AFC East. But it's a different way around. I mean, we could have easily already won this thing, but it's fine. Like, and that, right, I think, is the biggest thing. Just as progress for the Dolphins under Mike McDaniel, winning the division would be a great step, and winning a playoff game as well. There's more that we're gonna root for and cheer for here, but I think that's just a good step here.
Yeah, 100% agree with everything. Control what you can control, and hopefully we're talking on Monday about a Dolphins win.
I'd love that. And Dolphins AFC East championship. But yeah,
yes.
Thank you everyone here. We still got plenty of shows left here. But yeah, from us at Dolphins versus the World, please like, share, comment, subscribe. Have a happy new year. Have a safe new year, everyone. Yeah, thumbs up.